Hello and welcome to the Cube Pod, episode 103. I'm John Furrier with Dave Vellante for the weekly pod, Cube Pod. Dave, hold that salute.
Say, John.
Salute to you. Dude, it's summertime. It's 90
Yeah,
degrees in
officially.
Palo Alto today.
We had Memorial Day last week. It looked like it was a terrible start, but then it ended up beautiful. So played a
Well,
little tennis, went for a bike ride, got a cold. It's all good though.
I
Feeling
heard it
better.
was really rainy at this Memorial Day weekend for you guys on the East Coast.
Yeah, but it got beautiful on Sunday and Monday. It was gorgeous. It was down the Cape. Played tennis with Roman. Went for a great, nice long bike ride around the beach. It was good.
Everyone wants to know where's Dave
Like I said,
Vellante's tan.
woke up Tuesday ill. I was like, oh
where's
no.
Dave Vellante's tan? It'll be there. Give him a week.
Look at it. Come on. It's just one day of just riding bikes and playing tennis. But it's a good week to get sick. This is the only week we haven't been traveling. So I've been nursing a cold, but I'm feeling much better. Getting ready for Snowflake next week. It'll be a long week.
Brian Bauman and I went to Maui for the ACTAI Global Maui event. ACTAI is the organization that Bill Ty runs, CUBE alumni, legend in the industry, kind of a historian, but he's active. He's got funds. He's doing all kinds of cool stuff. He's got the ACTAI community. They're going to go to Greece in June. They got Perth in Australia. They got to go to Richard Branson's Morocco farm. All kinds of conservationist athletes. ACTAI stands for athletes, conservationists, and technologists, artists, and innovators. The claim to fame for Bill Ty in this event is that they funded Canva as a seed deal. They gave a presentation, like the startups come in and do that. And so it's got this buzz, and they're all kite surfers. So I tried my hand at kite surfing.
How'd you do?
I did good. I got dragged all around the water, tried to get up on the board, but got to lose 10 pounds working on that. Water was deep. So I kited, but I didn't kite surf.
It looks hard. What do you mean you kited? You just got dragged on a surfboard?
I learned how to use the kite.
Okay.
So you learn on land, and then you jump in the water, and then what you do is you have the strap and the harness and the kite's in the air, and you learn how to maneuver the kite. And when you get it into the wind window, there's the power zone, 2 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and you move the kite around, and it pulls you up like you're wakeboarding. So if you ever wakeboarded or water skied, you sit in the water, it tips up, and then the boat, you say go, and they ram it up, and the boat planes up and goes and pulls you out of the water. Well, in kite surfing, the kite is the boat. And so you got to get the kite to pull you out of the water. And so the first practice is you get in the water with the kite with one hand, board in the other, and you drag around, get used to being dragged to work the kite, because a lot of times you lose the board and you got to kind of tack back with the kite to get the board, which is hard. So you got to learn how to, when you were a kid, you ever have the boat pull you when you hold onto the rope and you get sideways? Like,
wow.
It's so you
Sounds
learn
hard.
It's hard. It actually wasn't physically taxing because you do have a rope. I mean, you're swimming, you're in the water. It's not super hard. But the board action with the kite is where the core works. So that's kind of my takeaway. So I'm going to work on it. I'm not discouraged. I'm not a snowboarder. I'm a skier, but I watched all my kids learn how to snowboard. It's like that. You learn hard at the beginning, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Face plants.
I've stayed away from snowboarding. I don't need a separated shoulder.
That doesn't happen, but you do swallow a lot of water if you hit the water hard. I'm at that next level. That next level of pain for me is going to be that piece. But it was really good. It was a diverse group of people. They do panels in the morning. It's like a retreat. It's kind of a spiritual tech retreat, I call it. And it's not a bro fest. It's 50-50, female, male, all intellectual, mix between young entrepreneurs, Stanford, Cal, all around the world. There was one entrepreneur who's working on an OLTP database. You're on. He's from South Africa. He actually knows David Brown's one of his workers, because EC2 was started in South Africa. So there's a huge tech community in South Africa, and they know their databases. So we bonded there. I moderated a bunch of panels. They sit on a couch. I throw out topics. Gen AI was tough. People building demos in real time. Basically, it's like, think what happens when you get athletes, VCs, entrepreneurs, mentors, and all the kind of advisory power and knowledge in a room, in a place on a beach. It's like an elite hackathon. it's like high-end shit happening. It's really strong, and the people are very cool. So, and then the winds kick in. You know how Hawaii is. The trade winds kick in around 11 o'clock, and then you have lunch, and then everyone goes kite surfing, and then you have a curated dinner. Good conversations, a lot of fun, all good all around. So that was my weekend. I'm definitely going to follow up. And apparently in the Bay Area, there's some great folks who kite surf in the Bay Area, Third Ave in San Carlos, and of course in San Francisco. The winds are solid here. So the winds are great in Maui. These, like 30, 40 knots. So it's hard.
Never been. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been fun. Well, we come back. My mind's like all chill. Felt like a vacation. Normally, I don't take vacations, but now I'm starting to. I get back, and what a run with Nvidia, right? So
Yep,
the earnings come
amazing.
out. First of all, flying back that day, Salesforce announced the integration or the intent to buy Informatica for literally 8 billion. Okay, so to me, that was a big news. And then of course we knew Nvidia earnings were coming out, and then they crushed the earnings. So you got massive, you know, action, and Nvidia not only just beat, blew away in light of the tariffs. So, Dave, I mean, again, we've riffed on Nvidia. I was trying to find some clips. We had so many clips of our commentary on Nvidia. It was really special to see Nvidia's earnings just, you know, come out toppling 44 billion despite, the sales export controls. To me, this is AI factory in full flight. Dell just announced their Q1 numbers
Yep.
surpassed all of last year on AI servers. So, Dell's pumping. So revenue's up, earnings with Nvidia, the data center revenue up 10%, 73% year over year. Gaming revenues up, free cash flow up 74%, 26 billion. So, despite
Yeah.
the
So
$4 billion charge for the export controls, they still crushed it.
still crushed it. I mean, so yeah, when you said 10%, that's sequential growth, right?
That's
That's
quarter on quarter.
nobody talks about sequential growth anymore. Most companies aren't growing sequentially, but Nvidia is. But they're talking 69% year over year growth, like you said, despite the China charge. So if you take the China charge out, gross margin was still over 70%. They guided to 72%. Blackwell makes up the vast majority now of the data center compute revenue. They had some stats in the earnings call, which was insane.
Dave,
Like,
data center revenues, 73% year over year, 10% QOQ, quarterly over quarter.
yeah, it's crazy.
Of the
And then,
44 billion, 39 was data center.
and then
Now, how do they parse
his,
that out? Does that include hyperscalers? Is that
yeah, yes. And so they said the hyperscalers are each deploying, get this, 1,000 NVL72 racks. That's 72,000 GPUs per rack per week. It said Microsoft alone is tens of thousands, and they're like tracking to hundreds of thousands. And they talked a lot about inference. Inference has basically gone vertical. They said Microsoft generated 100 trillion tokens in Q1, which was 5x year over year. Remember, Jensen has been, I can't remember where I heard him speaking, but he said they underestimated demand this past year by 100x because of reasoning. So reasoning is just taking over, and it's just driving the need for compute. And to your point, AI factories is the new data center unit. He talked about 100 NVIDIA powered AI factories that are in flight, which is twice year to year. The average GPU counts doubling. He talked about sovereign clouds, obviously in the kingdom and UAE and Taiwan and Sweden. I mean, and China seems like it's a controlled burn, John. It's not a flame out. They booked about what, $4 or $5 billion in H20s. They wrote down 4.5 billion, which was, people were saying that's like 8 billion in Q2 revenue. They're losing potentially a $50 billion China accelerator in the TAM. But ex-China demand seems to be overcompensating in the near term. So,
I
I
mean,
mean,
basically the $4.5 billion charge that's related to the export piece, China, as you mentioned.
yeah,
Even though they took that hit, their core business is so strong at Nvidia, particularly in the AI infrastructure. the top line just continues to go, right? The Blackwell, the Grace Blackwell infrastructure, the GB200s and GB300s, a full scale production, major inflection point for Nvidia. And again, with the under forecasted demand of reasoning, as we had pointed out at Dell Tech World, and we did last week on the theCUBE pod, this AI factory comes down to data in, tokens out. Reasoning requires more tokens to do that. That means more tokens equals the demand curve for systems. So the more tokens, the more compute and networking storage you need. So, this is not going to stop, because after reasoning is intelligence. So reasoning is just the stepping stone, I should say, to intelligence, reinforced learning, and in true intelligence, or AGI, or path to AGI. So the forecast on the supply chain with Grace Blackwell and the roadmap that he puts out will continue to go. So I am very bullish on both Nvidia and Broadcom, because both those companies will get all the spoils, right?
Well, what about networking? They had $1 billion quarter in networking.
Yeah.
Spectrum X, Spectrum
Arista
X,
and Juniper.
Spectrum X was just Ethernet. It's like billions of dollars. They got Google Cloud, they got Meta. They announced NVLink Fusion at Computex, which opens the fabric to, Qualcomm, Marvell, MediaTek, you name it. That's just furthers their moat. The Blackwell mix is awesome. I mean, it's probably going to keep gross margins in 70% through the year. OpEx is under control. I mean, they've returned $14 billion through buybacks and dividends. They're just printing money.
Well, the NVLink Fusion, okay, which was announced in Taipei, you just mentioned that was a big part of the earnings. And what we learned in Taipei from Jensen when he spoke, and remember, he spoke at the same event, same time, Dell Tech World, so we watched it. You're starting to see, okay, custom ecosystems. Okay, I wrote this on my LinkedIn post, didn't get a lot of traction, maybe it's too jargony, but if you look at what happened in Taiwan, okay, Marvell, MediaTek, Fujitsu, all these are co-designing semi-custom AI systems, mirroring how ARM reshaped the mobile systems on chip market. So you know ARM, you and David Floyer covered it at length, early days. So there's kind of an ARM dynamic going on in semis. So the adoption of this open infrastructure could be the answer to OCP, what other people are trying to do. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Nvidia uses NVLink Fusion and the custom ecosystem as a counterweight balance against the open side. We're going to be at the AI infrastructure event September 9th through 11th, SiliconANGLE. I might actually bring a pop-up cube there. So there's 3 events going on in the second half of the year that we're going to be watching very closely. The AI infrastructure edge event in September in the Bay Area, September 9th through 11th. The Open Compute Project, or OCP, that's the 13th of October to the 16th. And of course, Supercomputing 25, which is November 16th to the 21st, and then of course the reInvent. But those 3 shows will determine, in my opinion, what the outlook for 2026 will be. We'll be reading the tea leaves. We will be embedded. We will continue to get the signal out of this market, because these AI moves are coming down into the red zone, Dave.
And supercompute too, John. Did you mention that?
Supercompute, the
Yeah.
16th to
Did
the
you have
21st. So AI infrastructure
Yeah.
edge, open compute project, and then SC25. Those are the 3 shows.
And then
This is like football. It's like red zone time.
and then the
Whoever
thing too,
punches it in the end zone right now will unleash the data agent layer that's waiting in the wings. And of course, on top of that, it's the business logic at the application layer, which I think will be an absolute wealth creation trend that we've never seen before. So this is the time. We've been waiting. We've been talking about it.
well, and then, you nailed it at Dell. I want to comment on Dell earnings, but you nailed it at Dell Tech World last week when you've paraphrased it as, keeping up with Nvidia. That's the challenge. And Nvidia's roadmap, they declare it with confidence. They said that GB300 is sampling now. It's dropping into GB200 footprints. It's got, a 50% density improvement. And they lock in their annual cadence through, I think, at least 2028. And so the hyperscaler CapEx is probably going to stay elevated, I would say, for at least 3 more Nvidia product cycles. And like you said, networking is on fire, sovereign AI is on fire, inference is in a super cycle. There's that word again. And the China shortfall is real, but the data suggests that if you pull out China and you add in networking, the upside more than backfills for the gap. And the gross margin trajectory is there. The share buyback pace is there. And the bottom line is Blackwell is paying for itself in real time, and inference is compounding that effect. And Jensen just turned networking into his next $10 billion business. The only thing is the export regime is, looms. And that's, China revenue, but otherwise, I mean, it's all systems go.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, if you think about Nvidia, I honestly am blown away because I knew they were going to be awesome in their performance, but I didn't look at it as so much of the reasoning being an under demand. That's Jensen thing. That's his internal data point. But to me, it's much more about how little the market is not meeting them, right? Meaning AMD, Intel, others, why are they running the table, right? So, I mean, we know why, but the question is, why is it uncontested? So, Dell, with the AI factory for Nvidia, they have 2 versions, one with Nvidia and one without everyone else. So I think it's going to be very interesting to watch how the other players come into this game. And, I hate the word mode because it sounds defensive in the sense that that's no innovation. I think it's more forward progress. Scale is inimitable for them. They create hard to imitate capabilities when they have that advancement. So I kind of hate the term moat now. So moat sounds like perimeter when we have no perimeter on the network. So I think moat meaning competitive advantage. NVIDIA's competitive advantage is that they're moving so fast, right? The speed is like lightning. So can Spectrum-X fill the big debate? Remember last year, we talked about InfiniBand is going to lose to Ethernet. Yes, it will lose on the bigger picture, but InfiniBand for tight connections, as you pointed out in our last podcast, is fine. Oracle even uses it. So, there's a place for InfiniBand, but now they answered with Spectrum-X. So the question will be, how does the open compute community answer? Can they get the efficiencies? Can they get the model efficiencies and the new patterns in place fast enough? So the question is, the moat might not be a moat, it might be an enablement value, where if NVIDIA can throw off the enablement at scale with the tokens and feed the demand and be the systems for that, the data center is the computer. And they'll roll right into sovereign cloud, it'll roll right into, because sovereign cloud basically is an in-country on-premise deployment.
Yes,
or
right.
On-country cloud telco. It has a lot of similarities as on-premises, Dave. On-country, I think I coined the term, means you're in the country. It's like on-premises. So if you're on-country, that's basically private cloud, right? So, I mean, it's all hybrid. So it's a data center. The country is the computer. I think sovereign cloud will be the most hottest market in the next 2 years.
Well, it's wide open too. I mean, the hyperscalers are going after it. Dell's going after it. HPE's going after it. I mean, Supermicro's providing, capabilities for that market, as are Lenovo.
If energy, Dave, here's the thesis. Think about this. If energy and data, okay, Bitcoin's bounded by energy, crypto's bounded by energy, AI is going to be bounded by energy. If you believe energy is going to be the key and the data, these countries from a sovereign geopolitical standpoint will want to protect their sovereign citizens. They have to, so it's in their country's interest. It's not just an IT thing. It's political and it's technical. So who does that?
Well, they all own their own telco, right?
Yeah, I mean,
why aren't they going to own their own? And by the way, if you're right about energy, and that gives China a big advantage when you look at things like Cloud Matrix from Huawei. They just brute force their way to recreate the equivalent of a Blackwell and just throw energy at it. But I feel like, I mean, we're pounding NVIDIA. I feel like it's like we're betting Secretariat in the Belmont. like everybody's on it. But I will say this, David Floyer and I wrote a piece in May of 2021 on a breaking analysis, how Nvidia plans to own the data center with AI. And I'm looking at it now, and we did a forecast. I'm laughing. It was a
How low
server
was it?
forecast, because we had, basically, AI taken off to be to be 30% of the market by 2030. I think it's probably going to be more like 100% of the market by 2030. But we had it taking a big chunk of offload, because offloading storage and networking. We had general purpose going from 78% of the market to 37% of the market. So essentially, we're probably 2x lower than the actual forecast is going to be. But we did get the title right, that Nvidia is going to own the data center with AI.
What was the premise that you missed? Was it the fact that tokens were going to be such a big compute thing, or you would kind of like miss the workload payload there?
No, I don't think we missed it. I think it was pre-Gen AI. It was pre-ChatGPT. The premise was Nvidia wants to completely transform enterprise computing by making data centers run 10x faster with 1/10 the cost. And he's crafting a strategy to re-architect today's on-prem data center and public clouds and edge with a vision that leverages the company's strong position in AI architectures. And the key is it's this end-to-end strategy, a clarity of vision, massive chip design skills, ARM-based architectures, and system thinking. I mean, we got that right.
You did. I'm like, that's what I'm saying. You didn't. The premise was
And it's just
no Gen AI on the radar.
we just underestimated the $300 billion or $400 billion in capex every year that's going out to power this.
Well, it wasn't really a miss. It was just not there in front of you. But the thing to go back and do a mulligan on, if you knew what Gen AI would do for, the applications that people want and the utility that it provided, you would have seen the refresh. You would have
I think we
probably
called the
changed.
data center transition. We nailed that, and we nailed the petering out of x86, performance and dominance for sure. And I think we saw ARM. Now remember, they at the time were going to acquire ARM before the UK blocked it. Imagine if Nvidia owned ARM. I mean, it's actually, in retrospect, probably a good thing that Nvidia doesn't own ARM.
I think they shedded ARM, and we don't need ARM. We're going to go on our own.
That would have been just outrageous. I mean, they've got such a powerful position. Imagine if they owned ARM as well. But they pivoted to ARM, years ago, with Bluefield DPUs and Grace Hopper. I mean, it was just so ahead of the game.
The other news out of Dell again.
Well, yeah, Dell.
Give us the update on Dell.
They beat on the top line. They actually missed EPS, John, by about 13 cents consensus, but they threw off so much cash. And the street loves Dell when it throws off cash because they return 80% of the free cash flow back to shareholders. So the stock was up very nicely the next day. So the street, I think, interpreted it correctly. Massive backlog of AI servers. And so I think the street got this one right. I was going to say if the stock went down, it was a buying opportunity for investors. But I think investors said, no, this is, on the heels of Nvidia and Dell's backlog, they said, yep, that's going to keep getting better and better. And storage is getting better. The only drag was really consumer PCs, which I've always wondered. I'm like, Dell, why you stay in consumer PCs? And the answer is, well, they've got the supply chain leverage. So it's actually kind of pays for itself in supply chain, but it is a piece of the business that's a drag on the P&L. But I suspect when PC cycles kick in again, that side of the business, that side of the seesaw kicks in and throws off cash and does very well for Dell. So it was a strong quarter. Michael Dell tweeted out, yet another win. And like I said, the street loves the capital allocation strategy where 80% of the free cash flow goes back to investors. How do you not love that? But by the way, Michael Dell is the biggest shareholder.
Yeah, I mean, I got to ask you about agents. I know you got Snowflake coming up next week. Databricks is the week after. I'm flying up to AWS next week to sit down with Matt Garman, Milan, and Atul. They run the top 3 execs over there, as well as like a handful of others. There's a real conversation going around the circles there, assuming we just riffed on Nvidia we're talking about because, like I said, they're in the red zone. I think this next, when they score this touchdown in AI, and we're going to see like a solid foundation for scale up and scale out capabilities, supercomputing democratized, that's going to unload agents. There's really a conversation. I want to get your thoughts on this because we've said agents will be 100x SaaS. That's why I said that actually. You didn't say that. It's kind of over the top, but
I
just say
kind of like
100x.
I kind of like that. I kind of like your, you might be low.
Okay, so remember SaaS was leverage the cloud, but now agents, all the AI transformation that's happening. One of the things that I'm seeing is inside companies, even ourselves, when we look at what we're building, um, we're not thinking about apps as much as we're thinking about how to automate our workflows and data. And so the question is, with ownership inside these companies, where people can have extreme ownership of their tasks, and with startup thinking, with the systems mindset, people are rewriting their business apps with agents, not software apps. So the question is, what do you think about that? Because if agents become the mechanism for having ownership, an agency in a company, and agile thinking is like a startup, I mean, we're using AppSheet. That might be better than Salesforce. Right?
Well,
I mean,
but
so like this is like maybe the SaaS apps get replaced. Maybe Dropbox gets replaced with something else. I mean, this is the
this
question.
this is the
What is the
Nadella
innovation on AI transformation inside a
this
company?
this is the Nadella Benioff urinary Olympics, right? Benioff says your agents are just clippy. Nadella says SaaS is going to go away and it's just going to be agents talking to CRUD databases. So, and I think there's a little bit of truth in each. I will say this, I don't think SaaS is going to go away. I think agents don't replace SaaS. I think agents orchestrate SaaS and become the high value layer on top of that. And I do think that the value creation of agentic will be definitely 10x the SaaS business, possibly your 100x. But I think that the business logic that exists inside of SaaS applications, that won't just go away.
Yeah.
I think that will be elevated to agents so that agents can orchestrate, control, leverage, utilize. Now, having said that, over time, let's fast forward 10 years, I can see a time when that business logic actually and that knowledge gets decoupled from the SaaS, it gets unlocked, and then agents are able to recreate workflows on the fly and reform workflows like building blocks. And in that instance, we might see, SaaS get relegated to, a lot lower layer of the value chain.
I mean, it's no doubt the speed of no code, low code is going to allow people to code with voices. And I saw some demos when we were hanging out in Maui. I was hosting a panel, and one of the guys on the panel, I said, okay, I was thinking we were talking about agents. I go, what's the biggest opportunities in agents, and what is, with the tooling coming out is so awesome. That's coming out to enable agents, the picks and shovels, as we say, the tooling. I mean, that's all that people talk about in Silicon Valley, by the way, is how good the AI tooling is becoming. Meaning not just the coding itself or the code generation, the tooling to work across and integrate. So I asked, what's the opportunity with all this tooling coming out? What are we going to see? One of the guys literally before the panel wrote a little agent bot and said, let's see what Bill Tai AI says. So Bill Tai is the organizer. He literally pressed a button, recorded my question, and answered my question with Bill Tai's voice that was runtime assembled from a variety of data sources. And it was accurate.
Wow.
I'm like, holy shit. Then the joke was, I guess, the next question is, how long am I going to be out of a job as a panelist? But it just showed you that the voice, I think you used LiveKit or 11 Labs for that. And what it shows is that there's real technology now that's really cool and also scary. The fact that that kind of fidelity can be leveraged. So, I think I'm really bullish that I think you're going to see smart people who have agency and authority in a company, ownership, if you will, a P&L manager, a salesperson, anyone who has a position, if they have startup thinking, they're going to do stuff to move the needle for their business and their job. I think that's going to create breakthroughs and discoveries that we've never seen before. It's kind of like you used the example last couple pods ago, maybe last pod, like, well, the spreadsheet. Remember when you learned how to do the spreadsheet, you became a superpower. I think that similar productivity vibe will be what we're going to see with the agents, where some knowledge worker just says, why am I doing it this way? And then boom, the game is changed.
Well,
But it's
SaaS
scalable.
SaaS is going to morph, and seat-based licensing is dead. I hope. I think it's got to go away. But so the question is, what does the future of software look like? George Gilbert calls it services as software, just like we had software as a service. Now it's like we're going to be presenting services, all kinds of new services, like you just described, that are powered by software. So just as SaaS sort of brought forth, when cloud brought forth, whether it was CRM or ITSM or human capital management, those were kind of, some of the big ones. The question is, what are the services that we're going to be able to create through software? And what does that do for SaaS? So the service that you just described is, I guess a RAG-based chatbot that mimics Bill Tye's brain. That's a pretty interesting service, or anybody's brain.
Well, I asked some of these young guns. I'm like, hey, what do you think about small language models? And again, this is take it for what it's worth. The commentary was that why do I want to build a model when I can just distill it off Gemini? Apparently, Google Gemini is kicking ass in the developer community because people are distilling off of Gemini the small language models that they need. So I found that comment interesting. The other one was the hot thing is some of the protocol work, right, going on. So, distill faster, okay, and use protocols. For example, MCP is hot right now. Everyone's talking about MCP, Model Context Protocol. It's basically, it simplifies AI models around LLMs interaction. So essentially, if you and I wanted to have theCUBE AI language model interact with external data sources, say earnings data feed or tools. It's like a universal adapter, like a USB-C port. That's kind of the way people think about it. So, agents need to have this connective tissue. And so this is where a lot of the developers in the Bay Area and around AI, that's all they're talking about is the MCP and these toolings, and that the tooling has been advanced so fast. It's just incredible. That's the buzz. So if that's the case, then what happens next? What's the user interface? Voice, prompts. I was talking to someone the other day. They have agents running stuff overnight. So imagine waking up in the morning and your agent worked overnight and say, "I got your day prepared for you, Dave." Like, that's cool. Right? Like that, I would like that. So I mean, you're starting to see this programmatic, multi-step process with agents becoming the rage, and that's going to come in. It's going to disrupt, and that's why I think Salesforce bought Informatica, because you can't, governance slows everything down, but slow is the new fast.
Well, I like that Informatica. First of all, Salesforce got it for $2 billion less than they had offered, whatever, 6-9 months ago or a year ago, whatever it was. And this addresses one of the biggest criticisms in the Achilles heel, supposedly, of Salesforce, which is it's this walled garden. Well, Informatica gives it integration beyond the walled garden. It gives it governance beyond the walled garden. It gives it, things like ETL and other integration beyond the walled garden. So I really like the deal. Where was Informatica going to go as an independent company? You've done their conference many, many times. Their CEO. We've interviewed him many, many times. And it's a very well-respected asset.
They were right.
Totally. And good. The private equity then taking them public. They a couple of exits there. I think it's a great move for Salesforce. People interpret it as, this is just Benioff doing his same old M&A strategy, just trying to create this illusion of growth. I don't think that's the case at all. I think this is a really strategic acquisition that sets up Salesforce to be a fourth hyperscaler, a software-only hyperscaler, because Salesforce wants to federate basically other data sources. It looks at data essentially as infrastructure. So it doesn't want to compete with Snowflake or Databricks. It's like, you guys go do that piece of it. Salesforce doesn't want to, run servers and storage and networking. Let AWS do that. And it doesn't want to do all the data grunt work. Let Snowflake and Databricks do that. It wants to be the harmonization layer, that high value piece of real estate that then serves up agents and orchestrates agents. That's the future of software, in my opinion. And Benioff sees this. And as I said, I think he is going to try and become the fourth hyperscaler, a software-only hyperscaler. He'll pay the cost of goods sold tax to AWS and other cloud vendors. And I think they're going to do really, really well.
The software hyperscaler, I love it. They were the cloud before cloud was even cloud.
Yep.
So they were the first SaaS.
99. The guy was way ahead of cloud. He was almost 10 years. He was 6 years ahead of cloud.
I wrote a LinkedIn post on that deal and it went super viral. I was like, I wouldn't even know I actually got on the plane. I just wrote something up, but we had a lot of data from covering them. Remember, Informatica had Claire. They were really early on AI. They were really early on this agentic wave, but they were in the governance area. The Claire engine, okay, really was basically native AI for the data management tooling that Informatica was doing it. So Amit over there, who's the CEO, and the previous CEO, they're product guys. The former Anil went to Adobe, Amit took over, he ran products. So it was a product-led company. So Informatica, everyone knows I'm a fan of Informatica. I've covered them for years. But then, how much revenue can you squeeze out of governance and compliance? So the data management tools, that's a go big business. They got to win everything. So it's also an area that not every company is the same. So they clearly did the work, right? So I think they might have made a good call here. I think coming in with Salesforce is a lot of headroom. Now remember, Salesforce Agentforce platform is a data cloud play. So as you guys covered in your analysis with George Gilbert and your interview with Mark Benioff, which I shared on LinkedIn, pointed out that more efficient data operations requires improved compliance, period. Does not exist without governance and compliance. What I was saying is that Informatica already had a relationship with Salesforce, longstanding, a lot of experience with data integration. The Salesforce could be that software hyperscaler, literally taking agentic to the next level. But Salesforce also wants to move away from being perceived as being this big monolithic company to an open ecosystem, not just a bunch of disparate parts that don't talk to each other. And we've commented on theCUBE that the agents give them an opportunity to abstract away the silos, if you will, and bring together kind of a data mesh layer across all their different assets and portfolio. And by getting Informatica's robust solution, they can unify this intelligent platform layer. This is a holy grail moment potentially for Salesforce if they play it right with Informatica. And the customers are going to get fast agents because Salesforce is looking at obsolescence on one hand. I mean, people can build a database. People can build workflows on app sheets and these tools and automate them and actually replicate Salesforce. Okay, what they can't replicate is the data and then doing stuff faster, like Nvidia. So to me, if Salesforce can replicate the Nvidia model, Dave, unify and create an intelligence layer, they can do the Nvidia speed game and just out innovate everybody. That is the competitive advantage in the AI era. Let your super customers win more, do more, and lower the entry to get into it. And right now, Salesforce relies on a sticky business model per seat. You pointed it out. That should be gone with the death of SaaS. And everyone who goes Salesforce knows, like, oh, to get another license, people trade seats. I don't want to go to the next, call the salesperson up and get another tier pricing, jacked up pricing. So Salesforce has to move the value to the new consumption layer and price it across the assets. So to me, I think the play is clear to Salesforce. They are a software hyperscaler, as you pointed out, and it's not just salespeople. So as Elon Musk said, why do you call it Salesforce? Mark Benioff replied on CNBC and said, we should just call it Agentforce.
Yeah, they may change the name. I mean, it would make sense.
I mean, think about it. If they don't deliver AI capabilities, Dave, they're going to be the old guard, okay? Not even modern legacy. So they have to nail the data integration. They got to nail the data cloud. They got to bring in this next intelligence wave because we are on the do the search thing with RAG, get some reasoning going, and then the third wave is intelligence. That's going to be autonomous, semi-autonomous actions, agents, multi-step agents, agents of agents, and then that intelligence where the value will scale up. And if they can get their AI capabilities built by then, they could be the AI software cloud.
Yeah, and I think Benioff has that vision. I think he realized years ago exactly what you said and said, we're screwed if we don't make a move. And we have to integrate all these piece parts together that we've acquired. And we actually have the capabilities to build a data cloud, to harmonize all this data. And I think they've done a lot of the hard engineering work. And there's a ways to go, but they're well on the track. And they've got all that business logic, all the process logic is embedded in their platform. So they have access to it all. And they can use that to serve up to agents. Again, Informatica gives them a nice governance piece.
So I just asked
in addition to
ChatGPT
other
what Dave
integration.
Vellante thinks about Salesforce's acquisition. So if we had a bot,
Did it?
and just, I can do a podcast with you.
What did it
as your
say?
avatar. Dave Vellante, co-founder and chief analyst at theCUBE Research, provide insightful commentary, blah, blah, blah. Informatica acquisition. It's a financially prudent move. He knows Salesforce is acquiring at a lower price than previously considered. You mentioned that. Improved margin during their time as a private company. The enhanced profitability is expected to make acquisition accretive for Salesforce in the near future.
That's true.
SiliconANGLE is the source. Agent Force and Data Cloud Strategy. In his Breaking Analysis series, Dave Vellante discussed Agent Force and Data Cloud as a pivotal component of its strategy to evolve into a software-only hyperscaler, emphasizing these platforms are central to Salesforce's vision of delivering AI agentic services that can operate across various applications and data sources. Dave, you just said that.
Jess, why do you need to listen to CubePod? Just ask ChatGPT.
Let me turn the voice on and see if I can
That's
pull it in.
classic.
Yeah, it's like ask my agent over here. Yeah, we got to up the original game here. Let's get some original content. If you were Salesforce, what would you do? If you're Mark Benioff, me and you are like sitting around. He's our buddy. Okay, Mark. He asks us, guys, what's the big play for Salesforce? Okay, what do we say?
I mean, I would go hard after ecosystem, right? I would make friends with everybody. And I think I would not look at companies like Databricks and Snowflake as competitors. I would bring them into my ecosystem. I would help them grow their business and add value. I would build connectors to as many back-end systems as I possibly could. I would acquire companies that are really good at doing connectors. Snowflake just bought that company, Datavolo. And I would connect to everything out there. I would want to be the everything platform for business logic, application logic, data, and essentially be the place to go to run my agents that are trusted and to have my data harmonized and governed and be the premier place to do that. And I would do it on top of all the clouds. I would build a super cloud to do that.
I would definitely implement that. I would to be more specific, I would essentially go total ecosystem, because remember, they were closed, kind of a closed ecosystem. But what's their assets? I do asset inventory and say, hey, for a generations of their business, they've had a huge community. Okay, their community is their superpower. They have the trailblazers. These people have been building and deploying Salesforce core product for decades. Okay, so the full decade, 2 decades, say 2 decades. But say the 15 years since we've had theCUBE around. They've been crushing it. But it's been monolithic, my word, not categorically, but they've been Salesforce. Ecosystem, IBM they're doing deals with AWS. I would lock in an absolute open ecosystem and I would go the Nvidia route. And let me explain. I'd say we're going to win by creating less friction, more repeatability of building on top of Salesforce. Number one, I'll offer it up as a purpose-built Salesforce vertically integrated homogeneous system for any client who wants to just plug us in to run their entire software agent estate. And not mutually exclusive, offer Salesforce as a service, Agentforce, to be the software cloud agent system for on-prem hybrid cloud crown jewel data. And then Pick your portfolio, Heroku, Tableau, pick your tooling. And I would absolutely sharpen the AI native internally to create the best world-class tooling on the planet. And then see what happens. Because remember, Nvidia is making a lot of money by basically selling fully integrated Nvidia systems. That's homogeneous. Buy from us? Yeah, I got Ethernet. But that's what they're doing. At some point, you either become Nvidia, this is the old IBM strategy, Dave, back in the mainframe. Big Blue. No one got fired for buying IBM.
Well, you're right. The trusted platform
like,
for agentic computing. I mean, that's good. That's a good
so
play.
I would offer
like
that as two flavors. And that's what Nvidia is basically doing. They're saying, hey, if no one's going to step up to the table, step up to the microphone, step up to the stage, we will lock in and sell big honking racks of gear and software, miles and miles of spine cable, 72,000 GPUs, whatever the number was. It was ridiculous. And just say, go to town, Amazon. And then when that market gets saturated, refresh cycle, and then you sell to the enterprise, which wants heterogeneous. So I don't know. I mean, again, we're riffing, but we'll see what happens.
Have you seen Mary Meeker's report?
Oh, her internet trends. I don't think she's introduced that in like what? When was the last time she did that?
I don't know. It's 340 pages.
I mean, I think 2019 was
Pretty
the last
awesome,
time
actually.
she actually did it. What was it saying? AI revolution here. What's her numbers say?
I mean, it's 340 pages. You know, I mean, it's just like unbelievable. So her company's called Bond. But
you want to hear?
Remember, she first came out.
Want to hear a little trivia? Mary Meeker was trained as an intern under Andy Kessler, our friend. You know that?
She was a client of ours at IDC. She was a client
of
of
Morgan Stanley analyst.
Yeah, exactly. Morgan Stanley, and she would
Quattrone.
call us up, and I remember when she wrote that first report, we fed her. She used tons of IDC data to create that. Obviously, other sources as well. I mean, credit to her.
You know what she did that I thought was compelling. Why I like Mary Meeker is that during the internet bubble, she was basically a cheerleader. She was on Real Names as our account. She was when we were going to go public. But she actually really set the tone because she tracked internet population by user. Remember that?
Yes.
That was a key metric. And we've referenced that on the pod many times over the 103 pods, I think, multiple times, where in AI, it's a similar adoption. It's not about the bubbles. Everyone's like, oh, there's a bubble. But if you look at the adoption of the web, the internet, they actually looked at online population. And more people bought modems, more people dialed up, more people got internet. So as internet connectivity increased, the utility increased, more people came on board, things changed. So I think I've always said the AI population is the equivalent metric would be how many people are actually using proven AI systems and how many are in the picks and shovels game, right? So if you're in a growth market where there's an adoption by kind of population or some metric that's evolving like a population, the picks and shovels game is great. I mean, why wouldn't you want to be in the selling denim jeans and picks and shovels? Right. So that's where we're at. I mean, so the question is, what's that mean for AI? I'd have to mean that a report probably was going into some area around, usage, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. She covers usage. She's done a lot of these. She started in 95. She did 95, 96, 97. And then you're right. 2019 was the last one.
So what did she say for population?
No, she did April 20, July 24.
This is good. I just downloaded it.
It's good, right? I mean, basically making the argument that the change is happening faster than ever before, and she has really good data to prove that out, starting with the printing press, going through mainframes.
Oh, she's crushing this report.
Yeah, it's really well organized. I recommend people get it.
Now,
it's bondcap, bondcap.com/reports/TAI, which is trends in AI. bondcap.com/reports/TAI. It's really good. There's some awesome data in here.
Well, I have some weekend reading.
Let's make multiple
We'll do a
weekends.
recap next. I'll just pump it into the. She purposely made a big report day because she knows the context windows are too big. not big enough.
Yeah, I don't think you could just throw this into a LLM and say summarize. There's too much here.
Yeah, let me see if I
Like,
can actually. Well, this would be fun to do that. Yeah. All right. Well, Dave, what else is going on? We got a lot of action. I mean, I might take a vacation this year in July. I think I meant the first week of July, I'm going to take a vacation. I'm going to go to
I'm
Europe.
definitely taking a vacation this year, but then I've already scheduled QBRs while I'm on vacation. So there you go.
I think I'm going to go to the Greek islands and keep the kite surfing thing going on.
When is that?
That's June, the week of June 24th.
You've been to Greece, right?
Yeah, almost many years ago, but love it. Great
Greece is
place.
amazing.
And then we are going to be supporting the Raise conference. theCUBE has just agreed to support the Raise conference in Paris with the NYSE, Brian Bauman, and Kiri, who has a great group of people called second-time founders or multi-time founders, second-time founders. So Kiri, Brian, and myself are going. Lynn Martin might be giving a keynote over there, CEO of NYSE, and the vice chairman of ICE is going, apparently. So we got 10 VIP extra tickets if anyone wants to go. We got
When
some
is that?
passes. We're going to hold the dinner July 8th. So the Raise conference, it's like, it's
Oh,
in
that's
Paris.
in Paris.
Yeah, it's a fundraising conference. I'm going to do a podcast with them. I told them I'd come over there and do some podcasts. I did 14 podcasts, by the way, in Maui, Dave. 14 sit downs.
Did you really?
Yeah, it's fun. You see the pictures?
Including the
deck?
Cube Pod.
No, I
Or
did that
15.
actually in my room, but
That's,
we
that's
had
15
gotten
then.
Mark Castleman. He's at Intel. He's a great guy. I met him. He had one of the beach front porches, and he had the view. And I took my little iPhone. I wasn't going to do video, but I had audio ready to go. I just put the video up, and it was unbelievable picture there. And we got great interviews, very authentic. High quality. Bill Ty again was incredible. We had a bunch of the pro kite surfers on. One of the pro kite surfers, the current reigning world champion, Katie, she works for Extreme Networks. I'm like, we're a customer. We were just at your event last week. She's like, oh yeah, she runs all the back end data for an AI transformation for Extreme Networks. So shout out to Katie Potter, the current world reigning champion of kiteboarding. But yeah, this Raise conference in Paris is going to be the beginning of more connections in. We just did Commerce Tools. We're having a great relationship with the FinTech TV team, Vince Molinari. Of course, the NYSE Wired community is growing with
That
theCUBE.
sounds like a fun trip, that Paris trip. I
Yeah,
saw some other news, just real quick. Zscaler's acquired, is in Checkpoint too. Did a couple of
talk about
tuck-ins.
Checkpoint.
No, Checkpoint bought
Oh,
a vulnerability detection company
hey, that's a killer
called
deal.
Verity. No. And then Zscaler bought Red Canary, which is managed detection and response. So more consolidation there in the cybersecurity space. No surprise there.
ClickHouse got a huge round. I don't know if you saw that was pretty big
I
news
did see that.
yesterday.
I did see
OLTP,
that.
Dave's hot.
OTP. You can't you do all this agentic stuff without transactions. Good luck. Oh, when you saw Dario Amodi said that half entry-level workers are going to lose their jobs to AI. You saw that
Yeah,
headline?
yeah.
A
What
lot
does
of,
that even mean?
I don't
I mean,
know. This is,
if you're a worker right now and you've had this whole vibe of like, you know, I'm just going to hang out. I mean, I think we're going to enter an era of urgency around people's careers, and I think AI is going to only enable that. I'm very bullish that the fact it's going to transform jobs from a more higher knowledge worker. Again, you always use the reference of the spreadsheet and the PC. I love that. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think you're going to have, because I was in the PC generation, I saw the people come in. I came into the workforce and people didn't even know how to use a PC. I watched really, really smart people get dumb really fast, right?
yeah.
And or become irrelevant really fast. They were smart, but they would lean on their old tools, which is paper and pen and slide rule and all those things. And they're like, what do you guys do? I just move way faster. So I think we are in that generational shift. Business Insider just laid off 21% of their company because they're going to transform Business Insider to AI. That was huge. So every vertical, every job will be impacted by AI, period. That's happening. There's no doubt about it. So the stories will flex from, gloom and doom, jobs are going to get done, you're screwed, screw the man, screw the government, to you have an unlimited opportunity to level up and change careers or change your ability to execute your human capital. So I love the human in the loop story right now. I think that's the most pressing when I see all these examples, that the humans that get abstracted away actually slingshot to a better position. The ones that complain get wasted away. So yeah, I'm very bullish on this, and I do think jobs will be eliminated for sure. No doubt about it. But
Right.
it's you can only you can only worry about what you can control. What's that expression? So if you can
Yeah.
control your own destiny.
I think it's naive to think that jobs aren't going to go away. Of course they're going to go away. They always go away in these transitions. Question is, how do you no, how do you transform yourself so that you're more valuable? And the answer is you figure out how to use the new tools. Like you said, I remember that. I remember the guys in the corner office, the executives, right? And they refused to use PCs. And we were all just young guns, just jumping on it, like
Remember,
flash
executives
file
had to have their
retrieve.
email printed out for them.
Yeah, they had people,
Like
right.
what? I'll tell you right now, executives and big companies, and I heard a rumor that AWS did this, or Amazon's doing it, where Jassie's saying, "Hey, look it, you got to do half your job, do your job with half the resource, use AI." So the mandate is use AI to execute your job. You want more engineers? Sorry, you're out. Use AI. So I think what's happening is it's going to be a cultural forcing function to how to execute, to your point about learning how to use the PC. I think that muscle will be developed, and I think that's a smart move. There'll be pain at the beginning. It's like kite surfing, right? For me, it's got to be dragged around a little bit before I could get the lesson.
I
And the
do think
lesson is control the power.
I do think each subsequent generation, gets better. Who was the guy? Remember the guy we met in Bahamas? Great guy, Brad, I think his name. The older gentleman who said, "I learn a lot from crypto millennials." Remember that dude?
Yeah,
We
exactly.
we kept in touch with him for a while. He would send us these
Yeah,
funny jokes. You know what I'm talking about.
yeah. I mean,
And
look at us. I mean, look at I'm
there's
smart, but
there's an
I'm not
example.
a millennial. I'm not a Z generation, but I'm a founder. Founders can flex, but
I always
we'll never be AI native, right? Ever, because we're
no,
not that generation. So to
that's
me,
true.
that's why I hang out with the younger generation, because what they don't have is founder skills, right? So, right, like all founders can. This is my takeaway. Paul Martino just did a piece on this on LinkedIn. I saw. I mean, Facebook. Founders can flex around and be highly versatile, but they'll never be what an 18-year-old or 23-year-old or 26-year-old are doing now, because it's not in the generation. They can adapt, be smart enough to adapt as a founder, but they'll never ever be as good as that generation to see the problems. That's my opinion. I don't know what you think about that, but I mean, I think,
I'm not sure
founders,
I
my
understand what you just
experience is
said.
founders can flex.
I don't understand what you just said. Explain that.
Who's better off to run an AI venture? 23 or a couple 23-year-olds graduating from Stanford, or three guys in their 50s to
It
build the
depends.
next super bot?
It depends. Right?
No, it depends.
Are you arguing that it's the young guns that are?
Yeah, I'm
Or you're?
arguing that AI native, that's an AI
Yeah.
native entrepreneur.
I would say I'd bet on the young kids over the
Yeah,
old guys.
yeah.
But
And the point we were
the
riffing
best
about it.
combination, it's like Gary Kasparov. I think the best combination is you pair up the young guns with wisdom.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
you
And that
know,
was the other point, was the founders, like a founder who says, I'm going to solve this problem for distilling, I'm making something up. I'm going to distill Gemini. I'm going to build a new, application that's going to change revolutionize the whole world. Most likely that's going to come from someone younger who is smart enough to sit with someone like us that are founders who can work with them there, versus the monoculture of the three young founders. So I think, but the AI native entrepreneurs are going to understand the market differently. That's all I'm saying.
well,
Because
I agree with you. I think the other thing too is that the AI native entrepreneurs are fearless because they're in a way, I mean, they're super smart, but in a way they're naive. They're not afraid. They maybe don't have families, or even if they do, they're not scared because they're
yeah, they're
young.
hanging out at the AGI house in San Francisco. What are they doing? They're playing with MCP and Live Kit and doing demos
Right.
and
And so
getting
they
and shit.
don't know that that they don't know how hard it is. But you talk about when people have gone through eating glass and founding companies and faking it until they make it. They're like, I'd never do that again. Of course, then they do it again because they're in it for the sport and they're hooked. But they at the beginning of your startup cycle, you're not afraid. You're excited, and you could take on the world because you're really focused. And so that's what gives that superpower. You stay up all night. I mean, I remember when I started Wikibon, I would literally be up at maybe 7 a.m. and I would work till 4 a.m. Every day, weekends, and we just populated that wiki, and it was so exciting, and we would try different things, and we didn't care that we weren't making any money. Luckily we had supportive spouses, but we were fearless, right? There was no risk involved. Even though I had a couple kids at the time, but I didn't think about it. I just went forward.
Yeah.
And but imagine doing that. It's
called grit.
But imagine doing that in your 20s, right? Where you're sleeping on your futon and you're sleeping in the office. And I know a lot of people who have done that. And I tell you, the thing about startups is, as smart as you are, you can't replace like time at work, like doing the work, like spending 16, 18-hour days. It's kind of stupid, but the other people do that. It's like Tom Brady, just outworks everybody, and he has talent. And so, that's kind of what it takes, and that's what makes great companies.
This is we'll be watching the scoreboard. So over the next second half of the year, you and I had a meeting. We were in Vegas. We're going to be highly focused on startups. We're highly focused on AI solutions that are proven. We're going to look at the large hyperscalers, the semiconductors. We're going to look at the AI enterprise, huge market in the AI enterprise. So we're looking for, startups and enterprises that are doing cool stuff that's proven, has that tie into the whole clustered large scale compute networking systems. And anyone who's got an on-prem hybrid edge solution with AI, we'll be talking to you. We're doing tons of videos, the NYSE, and a new studio there, here in Palo Alto, the events. More events came in today, Dave. 3 more events.
I asked a cloud, I won't say who it is. I asked a cloud native, I'll call them a data company, somebody who's never done on-prem, said they never would. Whether or not they see the trend that we see very clearly, because we're down in New York all the time, we're talking to these banks, that they're saying we're not going to put our data into the cloud, all of our data. It's too expensive to scale, and we're going to build our own on-prem AI stacks. Do they see that as an opportunity, or are they not pursuing that? And they said, no, it's going to be just like it was with the cloud in the original cloud, where big companies like banks in particular said, no, we're not going to go to the cloud. It's too risky. And then they all ended up there. See, I think it's different this time around. I don't think they're going to move their critical systems.
Their premise was what again? Say that they think it's going to be the same as the cloud?
Yeah, remember the original cloud, all the banks said, and everybody said, all the enterprises said, the big enterprises, we're not going to go into the cloud. It's too dangerous. It's too scary. It's not secure. The security's different. It's privacy, and we're not going to put our data in there. Healthcare companies, financial institutions, any regulated company. And of course, they all went. And this firm said, no, it's going to be the same. I don't think so. I actually think that companies like Dell, HPE, and others, Oracle, IBM, I think they are going to have a much stronger hybrid play than they did their original cloud play. And Michael Dell said the other day to us, you said, which wave was the hardest? He goes, oh, cloud was pretty hard for us. Remember he said that?
It was slippery.
Yeah, it was slippery. And because they didn't have their act together. I mean, it was like they had all of them. It wasn't just Dell. It was Dell, EMC,
But they were also in the
IBM,
innovator's dilemma
HP.
too. They had servers. Their main customers were in the data center.
But they had a crummy on-prem experience compared to the simplicity of the cloud. I think it's much different this time around. I think they've got a much better on-prem experience, and to the extent that they can build an ecosystem with AI contributions from startups and other players, I could see, like for instance, what is the on-prem AI stack look like? What's the data stack equivalent of Snowflake and Databricks? It really doesn't exist. But we know there's a company out there, kind of a legacy company out, Cloudera, that actually has a kick-ass data stack. It just, missed the cycle, missed the cloud, right? It got bowled over by the cloud, but they created big data. They've actually got, a viable platform that could
They were the
could
first
be
ones to
part.
call it a data platform, remember?
I know, I do. So that could be a play. Or Mongo. Mongo has an on-prem AI stack.
I would love to
That
see
could be.
Cloudera rise up and get the mantle on this one because they grinded first, transformed, Hortonworks joined in behind it.
Innovated.
They
Yeah.
were also, Cloudera was the brand that hosted theCUBE's first office. So it kind of like cheering for them.
Yeah, it's kind of nostalgic. I know. It's true. But you think about that. So it's just going to take focus in stitching that together. And to the extent that you can go, if you can go to organizations with a solution, said here it is. It's the Dell AI factory with Nvidia. Oh, and by the way, you don't have to buy the whole Nvidia stack. We've got this data stack, we've got Mongo or Cloudera, we've got this governance capability, we've got this security, we've got this IAM, we've got these ISVs, all part of the ecosystem. We've got this developer stack, we support Kubernetes and all the streaming capabilities, and you bring solutions to the market, and you do that potentially by vertical industry through your VARs and other partners. I believe that companies will say, yeah, we've got a data center. It's running racks. Let's bring this solution in, make it more efficient, and apply AI as opposed to necessarily moving that into the cloud. I think the cloud will continue to grow faster, but I do think that on-prem will modernize to the extent that these companies like Dell, like HPE, like IBM, like Oracle's different because they got a strong cloud play. But to the extent that they build out their on-prem AI stacks and ecosystems, I think it'll get significant uptake.
I think you are right. I think one thing that's clear to me, I've been saying on theCUBE, the data center is the computer, is the mental model. It's just another node in the hybrid network, distributed computing. Edge, you're gonna have big edges, small edges. We've been saying that for years. But and you think about the power behind it, the energy that's needed, I think all kinds of resizing will be done. Repatriation is going to get done by design, not as a anti-cloud thing, just by a sheer, I want it on premise, I want it on the country cloud. I mean, this is what's going to happen clearly. How and who, we'll be keeping track. Dave, have a great weekend. Short week this week for us.
Yep. Flying on Sunday out
I'll
to
see you next week. You're gonna be at Snowflake. I'll be in Seattle.
Snowflake. You're doing the AWS halftime report. Awesome.
Yep.
And then the following week is you're at Databricks and
I'm in
DC.
AWS DC Summit, and then Databricks, and then
I'm at Cisco Live.
Yep. Rob Stretche is going to be and Databricks as well. Teams everywhere. Wait till you see the second half of the year list of events.
I know it's going to be insane.
If you're a host,
how many media weeks did we
theCUBE,
do?
let us know. We're looking for hosts.
We're looking for hosts.
Unlimited, unprecedented demand for theCUBE. So and SiliconANGLE. So more AI coming. Oh.
All right, get some rest, John. Rest up for
have
the
a great
second half.
weekend. Thanks.
All right, thanks. Thanks, everybody.